The last two relics they've released sound amazing, but equally are the most open to abuse I've ever seen in leagues, so I wanted to go through all the different ways you could use them and some of the crazy strats that are possible. I also want to look at the fact that they will make a lot of players quit, because these relics will mean your league's experience this year will be like blackjacking on steroids, and you're going to end up clicking every single second of leagues if you pick them. So first there's Weapons Master, which means you'll always hit with special attacks. Plus, if you run out of special attack energy, you can just sacrifice your health to keep speccing. This one is just amazing, and in the video I think the thought process here was that you can reduce any boss's defense to practically zero, but players are far smarter than that, and it's so open to abuse. If you choose the range relic and unlock a Scania, and you can get yourself an armor or a Zarai crossbow, the range relic makes them a 2-tick weapon. And with Ruby Bolts, you'll also be hitting constant 100s on any boss with high health. Now, it's unclear if that 100% guarantee is a proc, but with the Zarai crossbow one's guaranteed anyway. And you could also use Onyx Bolt E with it, which restores your health by 25% of your damage and hits for 20% more damage. Now, we don't know yet how much health this relic will drain from you, and they say, although I'm not buying it, that they haven't finalised the numbers just yet. But with all of the damage increase relics that we have in leagues, it's like your max hit with an Onyx Bolt spec will be 80 plus, and that's being pretty conservative. That's probably going to be enough to heal you for all the damage that the relic takes off you, and in the absolute worst case scenario, you lose a little bit more health, but then just eat up after every boss kill. Now don't get me wrong, it's awesome and I want to try it, but just to start off with for these methods, you're going to be clicking every 1.2 seconds to activate your special attack, and that is just the start. Range also has the blowpipe with a guaranteed hit, so the blowpipe's lack of accuracy is completely irrelevant. It only uses 50% spec and heals you for 50% of what it hits, so it will probably out-heal the relic. But this is where they haven't really thought this one through. If you hit 100% of the time with any special attack, it doesn't matter if the boss isn't even weak to that combat style. You could, in theory, take a blowpipe to any boss in the game that isn't immune to range, and then hit every single time. Plus, with the blowpipe being a 1-tick weapon in leagues, you will hit every 0.6 seconds. It is sick, it's amazing, it sounds like so much fun, and I genuinely can't wait to try it. But after a few hours of clicking every 0.6 seconds, I ain't going to be enjoying myself, I can guarantee it. But if you want to be competitive, you're probably not going to have much of a choice. Melee has the Sarah Godsword too that increases damage by 10% and heals you for 50% of the damage, plus restores 25% of your prayer. Again, you'll be able to go to almost any boss in the game with the melee relic and probably never need food or prayer potions, and constantly spec always hitting because it has a 100% success rate. The Ancient Godsword is the same, providing you can stack the special attacks. These two weapons also go from 6-tick to 3-tick in leagues, which means you're going to be hitting every 1.8 seconds, plus moving, plus picking up loot, and also praying. I am still conflicted though, because the best part of this, apart from a few bosses like Kriera that can't be attacked with melee, or the Kalphite Queen that prays against certain combat styles, you don't even have to farm different setups now. You can do almost all of it with just the one combat style, which will really change a lot of our strategies. For magic, you've got the Volatile stuff, and we know even before the league's boost, the special attack hits like a truck. With the magic relic for this one, it's going to hit every 1.2 seconds and also gives us a 20% damage boost too. It will just wreck any boss in the entire game. Part of me thinks, well, that's fair enough, that's the point of leagues. But all of that is before we get onto the second relic, the Banker's Note. This can note or unnote anything in your inventory, possibly apart from a few specific things, and as the video shows, we can now cook all of our raw food without even going to the bank. Noting our farming supplies here is probably a bad example of how this relic works, since we can do it at the Leprechaun anyway, as is mining at the Rune Essence, because, you know, no one's actually going to be using it for that, but I think we can all see the potential here. You can runecraft with it without banking. I mean, I just need this relic. Plus, you can then boss with unlimited food, prayer, and other supplies, but it's so useful everywhere, and I was wondering to myself, where else is it useful, and where can it be absolutely abused? Starting off with combat, just the fact that you don't need to bank anymore will speed up everything quite a lot, and it means you can pick up every single drop if you want to. You don't have to make a ton of brews because all of a sudden you can take food to bosses instead of potions and stay for as long as you need, just unnoting more and more supplies and staying indefinitely. It's also going to give you unlimited rings of recoil without the need for a ring of suffering. Just make a bunch and periodically unnote them and it will add a little bit of damage. In fact, just moving away from combat just for a moment, since shop stocks don't deplete, you can use this at one of the gem shops to make recoils now, just buying a sapphire and noting them rather than using it as a money maker and cutting them and selling them back to the shop. This relic allows you to skill between boss respawn times by bringing some uncut gems, logs to fletch, whatever it might be, and I appreciate that is quite sweaty, but we both know people are going to do it. It's also the best chance you will ever have to learn Jad, the Inferno, or any raids that you've never done before. It's going to save you a ton of time at every single boss. Prayer also benefits as you can take your entire stack of bones straight to an altar that gives bonus XP and just offer them all at once. So far this leagues, it looks like the meta is going to be getting fast supply drops and then crafting, fletching, maybe even fire making if you have the Trickster relic when you're on your way to do something else. And I'm not sure people are actually going to enjoy that, but it is OP as hell. So is the food situation. Since shops don't run out of stock, with this relic you can buy as much food as you can afford from any food shop and just keep noting it and buying more and more. One of the best parts of this relic is rune crafting and it just looks amazing, and this is what I mean about good supply drops. If you have something that drops a ton of pure essence like Zulrah, you're going to be able to get 99 rune crafting in probably just an hour or something really silly just by using this crazy method. Construction and no more having to pay for a servant to bring you supplies or having to find them when you enter your house, when they're hiding in the furthest part away from the portal. This relic is even going to let you take unfinished potions to bosses that drop secondary ingredients and simply make them between kills. There's going to be no let up at all if you're going for that top rank. Thieving's probably just going to allow you to keep a few more items that otherwise you'd have dropped, just from the NPCs that give you a lot of unnoted things, and chests like the grubby one in 4th Host Dungeon. I can't really think of any way that it helps agility, unless you could note the pyramid tops, and that would save you carrying a lot more weight and having to turn them in every so often. With crafting, you can obviously take gems anywhere and just cut them as needed, which is fairly OP in itself, but since rune crafting is broken as hell, you could in theory make a ton of runes and then trade them for Tokkul. With shop stocks not depleting as I mentioned before, it means we're going to get a good price for selling our runes to Tazar shops. We can then trade that for gems in this shop, or alternatively the ore shop for our smithing. And of course you could just buy obsidian armor and weapons to get some decent mid-level gear. Fletching is the same as crafting, so taking logs out and other supplies with you to do it on the move. It would help Hunter for a lot of creatures like herbivores, but I suspect most players will be farming chins for their Hunter XP, which is stackable, so it's probably limited for Hunter. Mining and smithing will save you having to bank at all. Fishing could make barbarian fishing a little bit better, since you can cut the fish and then just note what you get afterwards. Cooking again will be quicker without needing to bank, but combined with buying raw food from food shops and then noting it, you can buy yourself to any level in cooking that you can afford very, very quickly. Fire making is just going to be another skill where you don't need to bank, but unless you're going to go for the longest fire line ever east of Koren Castle, then it's probably not that useful. Wood cutting is going to be nice for anyone that doesn't have endless harvest. Being able to note logs, especially trees that are usually out the way like mahogany, will be quite useful. Can't really think of any real use for farming, I might just be missing something, but the leprechaun does exactly the same thing, so you only save yourself running a few tiles away. Now we don't know if these two relics share the same tier, but given that one is combat and one isn't, it seems unlikely. Combining the two of them feels like one of the most OP things I've ever seen in Leagues. You can spec the hell out of almost any boss in the combat style you've unlocked the relic with, and all of the boosts on top of that and kill it in record time. Loot it, then unnote it with Banker's Note, unnote some food, eat up, and if it has a long respawn time, unnote some skill and items whilst you stood there and craft to fletch them. The boss respawns, spec every 0.6 or 1.2 seconds depending on your weapon of choice, until it dies, loot it, note it with the Banker's Note again, and you get the point. They are amazing. I do want to try this stuff out, it sounds fun as hell, but after a few hours or even days of doing that, I've just got a horrible feeling that it's going to stop being fun for a whole bunch of players who will end up burnt out in this leagues. Let me know what you think. Are you taking these relics, and 6 months from now, will we remember this as the fun leagues or the sweaty leagues?